day with this COVID stuff because everybody's moving from home and dealing with a lot of online communications and exposing themselves in ways that they'd never even considered. If you think you are too small and that nobody cares about what you've got, think again. So I've asked Roger Smith to be able to come in and run a mini masterclass on cybersecurity and how to protect yourself, your data, and your team. He's the #1 Amazon best-selling author. He's been featured in CNN, NBC, all the fancy media. He is the guy to make sure you are doing some of the simple things to basically reduce anyone's interest in wanting to attack you. So before you hear from Roger, a little bit more context. So you're about to sit in on a session from one of our crisis reinvention team, but let me give you some quick context. When COVID started to seriously impact businesses, we mobilized experts from within the Dent community to be able to help business leaders like yourself navigate the difficult decisions across a variety of topics, including how to access finance and grants, to cash management, to human resource law, to marketing and sales strategies, to cool tools and tech that you can use from home, through to high stakes leadership, health, wellness, stress management, not just for yourself, but for your team, and look, a whole lot more. For the full schedule, with more being added every week, visit dent.global/reinvent, and we hope you find it a useful resource. All right, let's do this.
Today's world has changed significantly in the last 2 months. We've now embraced the digital world like we've never embraced it before. But because we are embracing it, now is not the time to stop protecting yourself from hackers. Mainly because of we are now in a totally different situation than we were a couple of weeks ago. And we have to start thinking about how we do protect those people who are now employed by us, but now outside our control of our capability. So today, you still need to ensure your intellectual property, your trade secrets, your money, your staff, even your clients are protected from today's hackers. And to do that, we've got to add a few other things to our problems. So we've already got a large load. We want to keep our workers working as much as possible. We want to make sure that we don't have to lay off staff. We don't have to reduce clients in a large number of situations. We have no control over what is happening actually outside our organization, but there is also the chance that we are reducing the number of clients just because those people are actually reducing their capabilities. So most of the time we're already running on limited resources, no profit, limited revenue, and also everybody that we actually come in contact with has exactly the same problem. The whole digital environment that we're now using literally leaves us vulnerable to a huge number of attacks. So we don't want to have the additional challenge of actually being hacked as part of our initial problems. So why would they increase their attack capability? Well, to tell you the truth, we're all in chaos. Nobody seems to know what is going on. We are changing day to day. Business that was looking really stable a couple of weeks ago is no longer a viable organisation. Go the other way, an unviable organisation from a couple of weeks ago, maybe now changing directions, making it capable for them to actually do something else. There's so much happening that anything that is used by the bad guys to leverage their attacks, we may not notice it anymore because it may be buried in everything else that is happening around us. We are doing things outside our normal business practice. Think about it. One of the conversations I'm having with LinkedIn at the moment is we never took business continuity to this level. We never actually tested business continuity plans to a level where we say literally nobody's in the office. How are we going to manage? And we have increased our requirement for digital tools. Think about it. Those tools that we have access to, we never used to think were that important, or we now suddenly realize that the NBN or that huge capability that we've been looking forward to really did come into its own just because of where we are in today. And because we are fundamentally digital unaware, our help desks, our IT people, our managed service providers, our security providers are now getting huge volumes of help desk queries on how do I set up my home computer, how do I do this, how do I do that, how do I make it so that I can print on my computer but it comes out of my printer. All of these things are really important to the way we are now doing business. Now, if you look at it from a hacker's point of view, now is the time to attack us, mainly because we are so unaware of what is actually going on around us. It's time to confuse us, send us emails, requests on Facebook, anything that's actually going to make it harder or easier for them but harder to us to actually see what's going on. It's also a time to tempt us. We are out there doing everything we can, so all of the other things are becoming practically invisible, and this then allows other issues as well. And a lot of the times they'll appeal to our humanity. We've already seen what happened with the bushfires, where literally the whole world started throwing money at Australia and the people who were involved. That type of thing is already happening with the homeless and the poor. So people are going to actually start receiving emails, requests on Facebook, environments on Messenger, SMSs, anything that allows a hacker to actually compromise your system. The trouble is, the hackers think outside the box, and this is very noticeable in what they do. They attack our communications and our communication systems. They attack our transport systems and our organisations. They are attacking hospitals and hold them to ransom. We've seen this in a number of places for the simple fact that although the hackers have actually turned around and said, we won't be attacking that environment, most of the attack tools that that 90% of the hackers are using, they're automated systems. They don't know what they've got at the other end until after it happens. And then once they realise it, then they may do something about it. But are we going to rely on that? Wouldn't it be better to stop them from having access to those systems? And they attack us in a huge number of ways, targeting websites. Now websites have become more important. They found vulnerabilities in Zoom, which is what 90% of the people who are now communicating in the digital world are now using as part of their communication platform. The best examples, or the basic examples of an attack, come in a number of forms. I'll be a warning from the government, or I'll be this is what we're going to do to you, for you, from the ATO. I'll be an update from a hospital. They've found a new drug, or let's seed that idea that you may be tempted to click on a link to an article, and that's how they work. I could be an insurance policy PDF. My insurance comes up regularly, and I get a PDF, and I don't think much about it until I actually test that environment that I'm playing with. It could be your concerned parents, mum and dad, thinking that you're having a lot of troubles. Can I help you? And because mum and dad are part of the digital world themselves, they are not digital natives like everybody else, then they have got a bigger chance of being hacked and using that target system to get into you. I'll be a C-level executive, being nice to my staff or my clients. All of these attacks make it very hard to separate real from fake. I'll be your HR department. They're coming back to us and saying, well, we're not going to lay you off, or you are going to lay you off. These are the types of things that we need to actually make sure that we're also being a problem. Or I'll be a supplier. How many people have received an email saying, you owe us money, please change your account details to X. Okay, so they're out of their way. They are very good at what they do. And because of this, we have to actually increase our vigilance. What the bad guys use is what's happening in the real world. Okay, they've seen the bushfires. They've seen the coronavirus. They've seen what happens, but that doesn't mean they're only going to target that. Okay, because if you think about it, everybody's reading it, everybody's watching videos about how bad. Everything that is involved with the coronavirus is now a significant newsworthy event. So they're going to leverage that to get you to do something as well. But they'll always fall back to their other subject matters. Okay, game cheats, infecting websites, using celebrity to get you to actually do something that you shouldn't be doing. And it works on email, works on social media, works on websites, and they are all used to target us. Okay, it doesn't matter who you are, you can get an email that says, please do X, and that's a targeted attack. Not necessarily on you, it's just a phishing attack, but it can be a targeted attack just about what's going on. So, one of the big problems that we have is this attitude that small, medium business enterprises have, and that is, we are too small to be a target, we have nothing worth stealing, and it will never happen to us or you. The problem with all of these rhetorical questions is they're all wrong, okay? The bad guys use automated systems significantly. And by using those automated systems significantly, it doesn't matter where you are, who you are, what you do, how you do it. If you are connected to the internet, you are now a target. Doesn't matter whether it's a mobile phone, doesn't matter whether it's a laptop. If you have a connection to the internet in some way, then you are a target. So when it comes to we are too small, it's irrelevant. You have devices that are connected to the internet in some way that makes you a target. You're going to receive email. You're going to open up Facebook. Those are the parts that are being targeted. We have nothing worth stealing. Well, yes, you have. Because even if you've got no monetary value on your system, you may have intellectual property, trade secrets. You have access to other people, whether they are clients, your staff, your mates, anybody in that environment. And it will never happen to you? Well, yes, it can. We've seen significant attacks that have come about for the simple fact that people have thought it would never happen to us. And these are really, really important systems that we have to actually take into account. Now, the other thing about this is stop taking it personal, because it's not personal. They have automated systems that target what you are connected to. If you are connected to an email system, they will target the email system. They don't give a damn whether you've got an account on that email system. The email system is the target. So when it comes to protecting ourselves, especially in our environments that have now expanded significantly. We used to have the control, we used to have a system, everybody was in the office, that system was protected by firewalls or systems that we put in place. We had access to cloud data. That cloud data, again, we had a connection between those two environments, and it allowed us to actually do what we ended up doing. So there's a couple of things that we can actually apply. So the ASD, Australian Signals Directorate, came up with what we call the Essential 8. Now, they are business security rules for both work and for people who are working from home. And its significance in the difference of what we talk about when we are talking about computers. When it's inside an environment, most people take these as part of the environment. But if you start looking at computers at home, laptops, smart devices, then we start seeing some significant problems. So 1 and 2 out of the Essential 8 is we need to patch it all. Okay, the operating system, whether it's Windows, Internet, Apple or Linux, they all come up and tell you that they need to be updated regularly. With Microsoft, it comes up every second Tuesday of the month. These are the 150 updates you need to apply to your system. Let it go. Let them do it. Because if you don't let it do it, what you are doing is you're leaving vulnerabilities that the bad guys can target that allow them to access your computer. The same with applications. Those wonderful things that come up in the bottom of your corner that says you have an application on your system that needs to be updated, allow it to happen. It doesn't have to happen exactly when you tell it to, but it does have to happen regularly. And some of them, you need to actually get into the system and go update. Because if you don't, then you are not patching and you're not protecting yourself. The second one, two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication literally is something you have, username, something you know, your password, and something you are. And that that R person can be your mobile phone with an SMS, or it can be a dongle that you've been given by your office. So you just put in the numbers that the dongle says and off it goes, and you're now connected to wherever you're connecting. Now, most of the big systems on the internet now, they have two-factor authentication already bound into the systems. And if that two-factor authentication is done properly, once you've done it on your computer, you'd never have to do it again. It's just verifying that you own the computer and you have access to the two-factor authentication component. But two-factor authentication is a good protective strategy as well, because if you have two-factor authentication in place and someone uses your username and password and it triggers your two-factor authentication call, then you know that something is going on. And it then becomes a huge problem of how you solve that solution. Get in there, change your password is the best thing you can do. You need to back it up. When it comes to making sure that data is safe, one of the big problems we're going to face really shortly is the fact that all of these people who are working from home now have all of that information, that intellectual property, all those trade secrets, are going to be on home computers or outside the control of the network. And because they are outside the control of the network, your network, they're still backing up, they're still doing the right thing, they're still protecting the data, but this information outside that network is now in a very vulnerable position, because if something happens to that device, you get a piece of malware on the system, you get a crash of the hard drive, you've now lost all that data. So you need to make sure that either those people who are working away from home are still storing data on the main system, otherwise that information is now going to disappear, and or the information that is outside that network needs to be backed up in some way. Don't rely on Google Apps and OneDrive as your backup system, because it's not. And it can create problems if something happens, and some of the new malware that we've seen is now targeting OneDrive and Google Apps, which means that they will encrypt that data. It's encrypted on the server as well. That's a huge problem in itself. Application whitelisting, number 5. Application whitelisting is all about making sure that only applications that are allowed to run on a computer are allowed to run. It's usually defined in a SOE or a standard operating environment, and because of that, whenever people install an app, it'll come up and say you still can't run it because you've got the application whitelisted, or it means that there are controls in place that if a piece of malware gets onto the system, then it will not cause a problem for you because it won't be able to run. Application and operating system hardening. Now, when it comes to smart devices, for instance, how many people have got lots and lots of apps on their phone? And most of those apps, if they're not part of the operating system, are just running in the background, which means that if they've got a vulnerability, they can be targeted. If they can be targeted, then you can lose control of your device. Same with operating systems. When you buy that wonderful system from HP, or you buy it from Harvey Norman or JB Hi-Fi, and you run up your new Toshiba laptop, there is significant amounts of applications enhanced or buried in the operating system that they think is important. Well, the trouble is the bad guys know how vulnerable those systems are because they don't have the right checks and balances in place. So these systems can allow access to the underlying system as well. Number 7, macros. We all see macros regularly. Macros are, most of the time, we are literally part of the Microsoft Office system. They allow a Office document to have functionality, so it can actually automatically get stuff from other parts of the computer. But if you don't allow macros to run properly, or you make sure that only the assigned macros or approved macros are allowed to run, then those other ones can actually be infected with malware, cause huge problems for you across the board. And the last one is administrative privileges. Now, when you start up a computer, that first account, when you open up your laptop and put in a username and password, that is the administrator. That person literally has full control over your system, which means that if that system gets hacked and you are connected to it as an administrator, they have full access to the whole system. That is a problem. So whenever you open up a laptop, the first thing you do is you create your user, your administrator. The second thing you do is you create a user that has all the functionality you need. By doing that, you're then separating the systems. If I get hacked as a user, they don't have huge access to operating system program files because they are not administrator. It also means that a hacker now has to be a skilled hacker to take themselves from a user to an administrator. And by doing that, you are then protecting your organization. In addition to administrator privileges, if you are using an administrator account, email and access to the internet should be non-existent. There should never be an email account associated with an administrator because of the way that the bad guys target us through email. You don't want to have that problem where you open up an email, you click on a link, you open up an application, you download something that you shouldn't have done, they now have access to your computer. It's really easy when you're a user. You need to install something, it gives you that prompt that says username and password for the administrator, you put them in, off it goes. So it's also a case of, it gives you that second thought about whether I need something or not. The problem with what we are seeing is we have to change our ideas. We have to change our attitude. From it won't happen to me to it could happen. Now, if it could happen, I need to do something about it. And if I have this attitude change or this idea change, then I am now going to focus on how do I stop it from happening? Not, it's never going to happen to me. The same as it can't happen to it can happen. If it can't happen, well, no, it's a digital device. It can happen. Something can happen to that system, whether it's I drop my phone in the toilet or my hard drive fails on my laptop. All of these things can happen. So you need to make sure that it's not going to not only inconvenience you, but not going to cause a huge problem. I am not a target to I am a target. And again, you're changing this attitude to think, if I am a target, how do I protect myself and what do I need to do? And from nothing worth stealing to I have something worth stealing. There might not be anything on my device, but I have contacts on there. I have phone numbers on there. If I've got a smart device, all of these things are really important in how we protect ourselves. So we're now all working from home. We're all honky-dory, where everybody's happy, and we're now in a situation where we have to start thinking about how do we start protecting our staff members where we have no controls in place at all. And if you think about it, most of us, we literally said to us, you'll have to work from home. And the working from home requirement didn't go into some of the things that you actually need to look at. So the first thing we need to do is we need to improve our policies. We need to make sure that the policies protect our workers outside the environment of our network. We may need to put processes and procedures in on how these people connect, how they have access to information, what information they have access to, who has authority to do the things that we are needing to do, have we got a workflow in place? All of these now become something that we have not thought about. And that means we have a few problems in how we manage people outside our environments. We need to introduce better technology. One of the things we know about home computers from working in the areas that we work is most of them are hand-me-downs. Okay, I have a home computer that is a hand-me-down from my office. We updated all the office computers, everybody got the hand-me-downs. Great, not a problem, except we need to make sure that they're running the best operating system they can, the best applications they can, the best security components that they can. That way, if something does happen, at least we've got a chance of being able to either stop it or minimize the impact. We need to increase our knowledge about how the bad guys work. And to do that, we need to start educating people. Now, because everybody's at home, you're finding that a lot of their work capability has been reduced. Education is a really good place to start. There is a organisation called wisertraining.com who are very good. I'll put them on the last slide of this so you can see their URL. They have a 20-part free course on how the knowledge of protecting organisations can be achieved literally through 1-minute videos. Very clever, very informative, and it does what it's supposed to do, which is educate and create knowledge around protection. Fourth one, secure passwords. Now, passwords are a huge problem across the board. If you think about it, we probably have some really, really rudimentary passwords lying around all over the place on the internet. We need to start thinking outside the box. When it comes to passwords, passwords need to be unique for every site and service on the internet. So each site and service has to have its own password. They have to be complex, and complexity literally is anything on a keyboard, capitals and letters, numbers, symbols, anything along those lines. And the third one is they need to be more than 10 characters. Anything outside that, then we have a problem. Now, one of the big problems we have is people have got this attitude that passwords aren't important. When you think about passwords, they're easy for us to remember, but they're also easy for the computers to break. And that's the significant part of how we understand passwords themselves. Before the cloud computing craze came along, everything on my system usually was protected rudimentarily with a password. And all of my internet connections, apart from the ones that I deemed important, usually had a basic password on it. 8 characters, maybe 5 characters, just numbers and letters. Okay, these are bad situations to be in at the moment. So because they're more than 10, I can go into a huge spiel about how that security component is really important. Not the place or time, but we will do another video on just passwords and why they are important. If you're working from home, most people have got their ISP's router that's been delivered. The NBN has been plugged in, we turn it on, off it goes. We are now connected to the internet. We don't worry about anything else, apart from maybe how do I connect to it. Most of us fail to reset those default systems. By not resetting those default systems, I can do a search on the internet, I can find out what the default username and password for a system is, and that allows me full access to your system through a number of ways. Resetting defaults also means that if you've got things like smart TVs, smart fridges, you've got a system that you are accessing outside the home, they need to have their defaults reset as well. Because we are connecting to the main system, we need to have a secure connection of some sort. Whether that's SSL over a web page or it's a VPN that we set up on the system that allows total access to whatever you're allowed to access. Now, what this does is it increases the protective strategy around the organization. It now incorporates that computer and allows it access to the system, but you've got to set it up properly. If this computer gets compromised, is it going to allow access to the main corporate network? Because if it does, then you need to do something about it, going back to policies, processes, and procedures. Everybody at home has a Wi-Fi, and the number of Wi-Fis that we find that haven't even got a password on them is frightening. Again, this is a really good way in, and don't think the bad guys haven't seen this regularly. There are websites on the internet that tell you, or tell me, being a pseudo bad guy, how to get into or what insecure Wi-Fi networks are around, what street, what the name is, what I need to do. Now, not only are they a problem to get into systems, so I can get into using that Wi-Fi without a password, I can get into your home network, but I can then leverage that to attack someone else. So you now become a proxy that allows me to hide what I'm doing because you are the person who is deemed to be attacking someone, and or it allows all of that capability to cause major problems for you yourself. Because if I can get into your system, maybe I can store my kiddie porn on it, for instance. And that then becomes a problem for you, not for them. And the last one is we need to think about a different mindset. Going back to what I was talking about a couple of slides before, we need to come up with better ways of thinking outside the box. And because of that, we now need to start thinking about how we protect ourselves, our data, our technology, anything that needs to be or may be attacked by the bad guys themselves. So when it comes to these type of things, we've got to think. We've got to think and think again. The type of problems that we have are because there are vulnerabilities on all of the systems we use. Whether those vulnerabilities are human, because I haven't been educated, I don't have the knowledge about what a phishing attack or a spear phishing attack is, or the technology. We've just seen recently how Zoom, which was used by probably 0.001% of the population, is now using 30 to 40% of the population are now using it. Okay, when it was down here, it wasn't a viable alternative for the bad guys to actually target. They didn't look at the vulnerabilities of Zoom. They didn't see how it could be exploited. But the more it became relevant to today's world, the more it became a target. And the more it became a target, the more it was tested. And in the last couple of weeks, they found large numbers of vulnerabilities that hadn't been done to fix those problems. If those vulnerabilities are discovered, then they will be targeted and they will be exploited. No explanation involved. Okay, if there's a vulnerability there that allows me to get an administrator access to a system as if I was sitting at the keyboard, it will be exploited, and it will be exploited significantly. And it doesn't just stop at the first attack. Now, most people think, I get a virus, that's the end of it. Well, the way the bad guys do things is now significantly changed from what was happening in the last couple of months or couple of years. We now have what is called an advanced persistent threat. They will get in there, they will then quite happily target a device, they will look at all of the other devices on a network, and they will then target those devices. So I find this one, and I do something about it, I remove it, I've already got a foothold in all the other environments, especially things like smart devices. It allows me access to a computer in significant ways. And we are a trusting group of people. We're a trusting organism. We trust everybody. If I said that I've hidden something under a seat at an auditorium, everybody would look under their seats, even though I haven't. But because I was the person telling them, there's a very good chance that most people will look. So when it comes to trust, you have to have a mind change in that respect as well. You need to trust no one. Okay? Now, what I mean by trusting no one is we need to check internal communications. If I get an email from my boss, is it an email? Is it the way they speak? Is it the way they would write a normal email? Those checks should be going on in your brain literally significantly the moment that email appears in your inbox. Next is the outside people. People you talk to normally. Okay, again, trust no one. Check. Is that the way they talk? Is that the way they speak? Is that the way they would write something? Indicators of where they were coming from. If you get an email from Fred and their URL in the link in there is different, then you know that there's something wrong. Check up on it. Jump on the phone, give them a ring, send them an email from your email address, not from the link that came with the email. And always verify information. If you don't verify the information, there's a very good chance that you can be conned into making changes on your system that will either allow the bad guys to steal money off you or the bad guys to gain access to the system. And all of those are really bad. So what we're looking at is how do we protect ourselves from the external world. So in conclusion, just the hackers are out there. They will strike us at our weakest points, at our lowest moments, and right now, that is now. And because of that, you need to actually think about how we protect ourselves significantly when it comes to stop being hacked. The second one is, if you want to, I have a checklist on my website, URLs there, just jump on there, no sign up, just download it, off you go. It just gives you an indication of if you have people working from home, these are the things that you need to have in place. These are the things that have to be in place. These are the things that would be really nice to be in place. If you do a search for Care MIT scorecard, the first result should be our free business security scorecard. And if you do that, it takes about 10 minutes, 48 questions. You get a nice report back that says, these are some of the things you need to tighten up on your organization. If you do that, then you have a better insight into how you're protecting your information. And the third component is, if you really want to improve your security, go to bettersecurity.com.au and just watch the video. We've put together a video that actually tells people how we can improve ourselves, how we can make it better, and everything else. A couple of resources for you. As I said, wisertraining.com, free education and training, really good URL to really sink your teeth into. You can actually control it, sign up as a business, and then you can farm out or send out emails to all of your staff. That system will track them, tell them when they're not doing it properly, tell them when they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Second one is our free security checklist. Download that at all you like. The scorecard, again, gives you an indication of how good you are, what's happening, why you need to make sure that we're securing those information. And the third one is the business security system, just to have a look at it, bettersecurity.com.au. So my name is Roger Smith. I am the CEO of Care MIT. Thank you for listening. It's been, hopefully you've got more out of it. If you need anything, just contact us. We are quite happy. We are continuing to work, even from broken computers all the way down to troubleshooting problems with a network. Anything along those lines, we are there. So give us a call. Thank you.
For more expert talks, just visit dent.global/reinvent, because we believe that the decisions that you make now matter more than ever. We started Dent 10 years ago in the middle of the GFC in London, and we shared the key person of influence methodology as a tool to be able to help businesses thrive despite the chaos. Today, it's a best-selling book, and over 3,000 businesses use the methodology like an operating system for driving performance. And we've learned that regardless of economic conditions, that your primary focus as a founder should be showing up as the go-to brand, the key person of influence in your industry. More important than systems or social media, more important than Facebook videos or launching a website, the goal of showing up as the key person of influence in your industry should be the organizing force. It should be the primary objective that helps align all your other decision making. Because as your influence and reach expands, it becomes easier and cheaper to attract clients, team, media, even investors. When times are tough, it's the key people of influence that become even more valuable and even more in demand. And if you've been in business for a while, you're probably a lot closer than you think. So every week that this COVID-19 thing continues, I'm going to be hosting a weekly talk to be able to help business leaders like yourself recalibrate their focus so they can make the most of the times that we're in. If you're interested in jumping on a Zoom and saying hi with me, you can find the link to register for my sessions as well as all of the crisis response team sessions at dent.global/reinvent. If you found this useful, let us know. My name's Glenn Carlson, and please be brave, have fun. Let's go make a dent in the universe.